Hello friends, thank you for joining me again today for another Anatomy Masters. And today we're going to talk about simple hips. That's an oxymoron. There's nothing simple about hips, but let's go for it anyway. So the first thing I want you to see is, again, the whole human figure reduced to blocks. Now I am indebted in this to George Bridgman, the father of anatomy drawing, Art Student League of New York. He wrote this book. He worked in the 1920s, so that's nearly a 100-year-old book. By the way, while I'm talking about books, I've called this series Anatomy Masters. The masters I'm referring to are, as well, me with a small m, but the capital M's are George Bridgman, Jack Ham, drawing the hidden figure, and Andrew Loomis, figure drawing for all it's worth. The three greatest figure drawing books in the English language. I have no idea what's out there in the other languages, but those are the greats, and I'm going to be referring to them a lot. So this is Bridgman, reduced the human figure to basically three squares. Viewed from the side, let's turn this person then looking to our left, and the head is still basically the same shape. The chest or ribcage torso is now a rectangle, and the hips are a square. Now the first thing we're going to do to make this look a lot more hippish is we're going to rotate this box, oh, I don't know how many degrees. This would be a 45-degree rotation, right? A perfect diamond shape. Well, we're not going to rotate it quite that much. Something slightly less, just a little bit less than 45 degrees. Okay, so now our human figure from the side looks something like this. And of course, you have to watch the other videos to get the head and the torso, rib cage, and shoulders, and so forth. Today we're just focusing right here on the hips. So step number one, it's tilted. Now in this case, it's almost a perfect 45. But you see, that's where I get that from. And speaking of where I get that from, let me show you a really, really cool app that you can upload on your phone as well. It's this one. Whoops, hang on, let me get it here. There we go. Out of focus, there we go, called Art Anatomy, that one right there. You see it? Excuse all the paint on my fingers. What a fantastic app this is. So here's the human rib cage and hips. You can see you can turn it every angle whatsoever. Then you can also add muscles to this, but for a moment, let's just look at the hips. Again, here's that square I'm talking about. If we hold it like this, it's a square. Or I guess let's go that way, and then we rotate it. See, so there it is. Now let's talk about the hips from the front. I also have a photograph that I downloaded from that app. Here it is, and printed it right there. All right, now what does that look like right there? If you say it looks like a butterfly, then you and I are on the same wavelength. Let's go back to the front view. Head, torso, hips. Okay, so they're a rectangle, but they're rotated. So now this box is rotated toward us. Now let's go back to the side angle. There's one very significant modification I need to make to this diagram, and that is I'm going to cut off that front corner. Let me find an eraser here. There we go. So that's hips. So really this line right here is turned into two lines. I don't know if you can visualize this now. This is where we cut off the front corner. And if you turn those two corners into wings of the butterfly, then the hips are basically shaped like this. Let me draw that again larger. Again, hips from the front, rotated toward us, So then it looks like this, but then we slice off the front of that. Looking at this box turned toward us with the front corner cut off. Then we turn those two corners into curves. And remember, basically, I think it's more like a moth than a butterfly, actually. And then two holes, the markings on the moth wings right there. Now, while I've got this app up, here we go. Now, you'll notice the angle that we look at that hip makes a big difference. See it there, it looks like that butterfly shape I'm talking about. But if we look down at it, we see the hole through the center of that, and it doesn't look at all like a butterfly. So do you see what's happening there? Does that make sense? Can you follow that? They're just looking straight on. There we see that butterfly shape. But if we're looking down at the hips a little bit, the butterfly illusion, if you will, disappears completely. All right. So basically, that's the human hips. Now let's do one other thing, and sorry, I'm going to go back to this. Let's look at this hip now from the side. Do you see this socket right there? That's where the femur, the largest bone on the human body, goes right in there. And we'll talk more about the shape of the femur when we do the legs. But that's where it goes. And that gives you the basic shape of the hips. Let's put this person all back together now and just wrap it up. Head, which you know we'll work on that. Taper, taper, taper. Eyes, ears, mouth, nose, eyes there, and so forth. And then the chest box, triangle on top, sphere, sphere, diaphragmatic arch. This is all review. I'm assuming you've navel there. I'm assuming you've seen these videos already. Lats, the pit of the throat right there, clavicle right about there, traps, and so on and so forth. We won't worry about that right now. Okay, so now the hips down here, based on what we just did. Backbone, and finally the largest bone in the human body, which is the femur right there. All right, so that gives you a pretty good human physique. You're well on your way to drawing a human physique. We're going to get a lot more complicated than this, and again, I'm going to get a lot of my information from the 3 best books ever written on the subject, which are Andrew Loomis, Jack Ham, and George Bridgman. Thanks for watching. There'll be more coming soon. Bye-bye.